Glad you could join us on another episode of Business Redefined. This is your weekly, most comprehensive look at the world of business, finance, and economics. We want to talk about the insurance market in this country. A lot of conversation happening around the penetration rate and why we are still struggling to bump it up to get closer to the global average. IRA tells us we're at about 2.4%. The global average is something around 7-8%. So how can we scale that? We are privileged to have on set Dennis Moria, General Manager in charge of business development at Britam. Dennis, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Julians.
And karibu, and thank you so much for creating time to speak to us.
Thank you for having me.
So, broadly speaking, first of all, about the insurance market, penetration seems to be a struggle for this country. I guess not just for this country, a lot of the developing economies. And where is the challenge? What's the missing link here? Because we have been in the 2.43% margin for quite a while by IRA data. How can we scale this up?
Okay, thank you for that question. From where we sit, I think one of the big challenges is just largely around the middle class growing in terms of the growth of the economy and the middle class. So having more disposable income is one of the key things that will help us grow. So what most people in the global north have been insuring is mostly their assets, and then of course we've good aspects of life insurance and savings in that. So one of the key things I would say is that here we are good at insuring some of the assets on a mandatory basis. So we do insure your motor vehicle because you must. A few of us do insure our homes and other assets. But I think, so that's one of the key areas. But the other key thing I think we need to think about is saving for our future in terms of retirement planning or life insurance. So once we get into those, sorting out those higher order needs, then we'll be able to make sure that the penetration does grow. But of course, that is a factor of income. So there are certain priorities people do have in place for today before they do think about tomorrow. So as the economy grows and more people are able to have more disposable income, then this keeps on, will keep on improving as we go along. But one of the other key things is around now making sure we do have products that are relevant to low-income segments of the market. And that's one key area that Britam is working on, especially with our microinsurance business, known as Britam Connect. So we're able to now get into those untapped markets and be able to now ensure that those risks that they do incur that particular area are covered. Yes.
Maybe you need to give us a lot more color around that, because precisely at that point, microinsurance has always been built as the silver bullet to this challenge that we have around penetration. But still, from what I see, it doesn't seem to be punching within its weight. How do we curate products which then speak to the market needs, especially now with what Britam is doing?
Okay, good. And when it comes to curating products that do meet the market needs in this particular area, one of the key areas that we need to focus on is looking at understanding what risks and issues that do impact that particular market. And they will vary depending on which part of, for example, the country that you are in. Maybe give an example in terms of areas where there's lots of farming. So whether index-based products are what would be sufficient for that particular market. And those products are there in the market right now. So one of the key issues there is around probably ability to fund those particular products. So, and we do have development partners trying to, one, support us in that particular area. And then we'll be able to now show the value proposition to our customers. Then they'll be able to see the value that such services do provide. A good example is when we were able to pay out claims in the flood-prone areas late last year. And that was able to show now the impact insurance has on the customer and the market. So now there's appreciation about why there's protection in that particular area. Now you can move on into other areas like where you have famine and now other weather-related events and support those particular marginalized communities in that particular area. Then you'll be able to see the value of insurance and they'll be able to now to contribute. And part of the global strategy is get development partners to support that particular area. But of course, they move back away as people start seeing and appreciating it. So it's an issue of timing.
I see.
Yes.
So essentially, development partners come in as a de-risking element at the start, then progressively make their way out.
Yes.
All right, all right. Speak to us about globally and even locally, we are having a lot of conversation around, we are transitioning in terms of standards from IFRS 4 to 17. What would be the impact on the insurance sector when we have this kind of transition? I've had a lot of concerns around what the implications on day one on the balance sheet would be for many players.
Okay. So IFRS 17 is a financial reporting standard. And a reporting standard just tells you how much profit you're making today. So one of the key important aspects of IFRS 17 was to make sure that we do standardize how insurance companies across the world report in terms of their financial performance, so their balance sheet and their income statements. So previously, under what is known as IFRS 4, different countries or jurisdictions had a different way of assessing their liabilities or balance sheets. So that meant that you could not compare insurance companies from one end of the globe to the next, maybe only within a country.
Yeah.
So the benefits that I do see around this standardization across the globe is now you do have investors, global investors, who can be able to now easily understand and interpret our financial statements here in Kenya, and they'll look more or less as that of those other insurance companies in the, let's say, in the UK or in South Africa as well. So profit will mean the same thing. Yeah. So which is quite important for the investor. So in terms of impacting on strategy, I would say twofold. So if you didn't have a good understanding of your business before, then of course now this will bring transparency across the board, and now it'll focus you to shift your strategy around how you run your business. But of course, like Britam, you do understand the implications of your business. The strategy doesn't change significantly. So financial reporting should not necessarily change your strategy if you understand how your business operates and under the core principles. So that should not be any impact around there. So it's just around how you report your profits over time, and making sure that everyone can understand what you're doing and there's more transparency within the market. That would say would be the key benefits of IFRS 17. So it is more complicated and challenging in terms of computing it,
Yes.
but I think over time with technology and as people get to learn and understand it, then it'll be much easier. You'll be able to have more professionals who understand it and be able to interact with the numbers and be able to focus on the key things, key messages that the accounts are trying to tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Life insurance. Majority of us might not even be aware what exactly this means. Just give us a one-on-one and tell us about what Britam is doing in this space.
Okay. So life insurance is, as the word term says, it's insuring your life. So one of the unique things of life insurance is that if you insure your life, the objective is not for you to benefit in case of the risk happening, so in the unfortunate event of your death. The purpose of life insurance is to protect your family and your loved ones, especially for those who are the breadwinners for their family. So Julian, I'm sure you have children, you have a spouse, and I'm sure you want to make sure that in the unfortunate event you're not to be there tomorrow, they are well taken care of. Their standard of living remains the same. They're able to go to the schools that you aspired for them to go to, and be able to meet their life goals, So that's one of the key things that life insurance offers. So there are a wide variety of products that are available in life insurance. I also have got education planning products. That's what Britam is very well known for, so that help you plan for the education needs for your child. So you don't wait for the time when university or high school you get bumped up with high fees. So you pay progressively and you build up a fund which is able to support you at that point in time as well. So helping in financial planning.
Okay. Yes. So essentially, it is I, as a breadwinner in this case, ensuring that my family, in the event of my absence, will be able to continue as normal, if I could put it that way.
Yes.
So what sort of market trends are you seeing in that space? I understand that you hold a dominant position there, and what strategies are you deploying to ensure you remain at the front?
Okay. So my role in Britam, as the General Manager for Business and Development, I'm in charge of sales, marketing, and the distribution channel within Britam. So one of the key things that we're making sure that we do maintain the market trends is focusing a lot on research on the emerging customer. So right now you could say we've got 3 customer segments who are predominantly dominant here. We do have your Gen X customer. I think the last one is about to turn 60, the first one is about to turn 60 this year. And that customer has been with us for many years, and their buying habits and needs were a bit slightly different. Though, of course, they did have families and kids as well. We're also in the pension space. So we do have products especially for like that market segment, where when you're retiring with a lump sum, you're able to buy an annuity and we pay you an income for the rest of your life. Okay? But those are the needs of that customer now going forward over the next 20 years. Then you've got now your younger customers, especially the Gen Zs. And for example, I think the oldest right now is around 27, 28 right now. So that's the new emerging consumer. They're getting into the workforce, they're going to be earning. And as you can see, they'll be getting towards now life, they'll get married, have children, and then they'll need to support those families in the future. And also they do have other life goals they do want to plan for.
Yeah.
And we are there to support them in terms of that financial planning, also from a life insurance, also from an investment perspective as well. And they will incur other risks that do need to be insured as well. Yes. So once we appreciate that these different groups do have different needs, or they interact with products and services in a different way compared to different generations, then it's just making sure that our products do perform as expected. So we must do and keep up with what, let's say, like the telcos are doing or the banks are doing, and serve them in a similar manner as they do expect as well. So that's how we make sure that we keep innovating and be relevant to the customer base of tomorrow.
So, Dennis, I'm very curious. You've spoken about the Gen X, the Gen Z. Where have you left us millennials? Oh, we don't have insurance needs.
No, the millennials do have insurance needs. In fact, those are the majority of today. All right. So that is, I would call that the customer of today, and they are the cash cow of today.
Yes.
All right. So, and they're quite critical. So that's the customer we're predominantly serving today, based on the needs. They're not too different, especially from the Gen X, especially the younger generation, and the older generation is not too far from the Gen X.
We're straddling in between.
You're somewhere in between. So you could just put a straight line down the middle, and they would fall more or less either way. Yeah.
Okay, all right. On a more industry perspective, there are players I've spoken to who have intimated that Kenya's insurance market is struggling with a loss ratio problem. The claims versus the premiums you take up. And there's a view that perhaps we need to have a conversation around consolidation, especially at the medium and bottom tier of the market. I'm curious on your thoughts on that.
Okay. So in terms of the impact of the loss ratio, I would say that's probably an aspect of being the highly competitive market that we are in. I would say even in developed markets, they do have high loss ratios. It's just that now those businesses are of such high scale that the expense costs are usually very low. So if you think of like US health insurance, in fact, where they say health insurance provision is very expensive, they tend to have expense ratios of like 8 to 10%. Okay, so which is very low compared to here in Kenya. Yeah. So that does make the case for that we do need to amalgamate merge many insurance companies and then have a few larger ones, but also we need to be careful to make sure that there is competitiveness and value still delivered to the customer as well. So the issue would be more of merging to make sure that there are economies of scale, so that from an expense-based perspective that those are muted at that level. But when you do have an insurance company providing you running loss ratios of 60, 70%, then they're offering value to the client, not keeping most of the money for themselves.
Okay,
yes.
Good point there. 18 consecutive awards from the Association of Kenya Insurance. One, what does this mean for you? And critically, what signal should consumers take from this kind of track record?
All right. So Britam is turning 60 years old this year, and Britam Life Assurance Company has won the Life Insurance Company of the Year for the last 18 years. So I think the big takeaway I'd say this to the public is this is a trusted company, especially in the aspects of life insurance, where you do need to have a trusted partner to make sure that they do deliver when you're not there. That's the most important thing and promise that we do offer as a life insurance company, that will be there to meet that promise and obligation for you in perpetuity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. There are many Kenyans who reach out to me, and whenever we have these conversations around insurance, especially around the low penetration, they say, one, insurance contracts are just too complicated. When you send your army of sales agents outside, and they come to me and they have documents, and it's in very tiny font and extremely long, and in language which I don't easily relate to. How do we begin to circumvent this challenge in terms of a distribution of insurance products?
All right. I think one of the key things that we're doing is making sure that we do develop products that are relevant to specific market segments. I think that challenge has come from the yesteryears, where you try to have one product that fits multiple markets, everyone. So when you do that, now you create complexity. So now part of the simplicity we're trying to introduce now is make sure we have products that are relevant to specific market segments. But also give commendation to our regulator. They do have taken initiatives in terms of standardizing certain contracts. For example, like for motor insurance, where we tend to have most of the disputes as an industry. So there we'll have fewer disputes going forward.
Yeah.
And it has been in place for a very long time as well. So, so that's one of the key things that I would say is quite critical. The other key thing is now offering service options that are very readily available to the client. Okay? So, for example, in Britam, we do offer self-service options. You can open your mobile app and you can see your insurance policy. All right? And there we have simplified items and you're able to see it on a consistent basis compared to before, where you'd pay premiums, get your contract on paper, put it under the bed, and forget about it. So now you're able to interact with your policy on a regular basis, and we do make sure we've got features that help you now understand your product as you go along as well.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Someone told me that AI, artificial intelligence, is playing a very huge role in terms of helping insurance players like yourself clean up fraud in the sector, especially around fictitious claims. I don't know whether you have an interaction with this and you can comment on how it's impacting you.
Okay. So I do not have a personal interaction, but even before we get to AI in terms of data analytics, that has helped us improve significantly in terms of monitoring claims processes and any issues that may arise,
Yeah.
and any potential fraud incidences or bad behaviors you may see, especially what you'd call in the motor insurance space. All right, you can be able to see which kind of garages are asking for specific amount of parts and charging very inordinate amount of pricing. So that does help in terms of making sure that you're able to mitigate fraud and capture and address the issue where it is. So that has been more of a factor of technology. And now, as we get into the AI space, now it's seeing how we can be able to do that. The key thing is now we need a lot of human intervention in doing the analytics. You need an actuary like myself in my younger days to do that work, clean up the data and review it. But now with AI, now that will be able to be done now automatically, and you get even better insights compared to a human being looking at that. So I do see a space where it'll have great impact, especially in managing claims fraud, but also the other opportunities I do see around now. One of the areas that I'm passionate about is especially improving the customer experience, right? So someone like you may have lots of insurance needs that you may have, or investment services that you may consume, especially from providers like Britam. So we could be able to have investments from your unit trusts. You may have a life insurance policy, motor insurance, and your home insurance, and many other kind of products that you may need once in a while. So with AI, that will be able to now be providing you with relevant information about what is happening with your policy at any point in time, as opposed to us bombarding you with information all at the same time.
Yeah.
So be able to find what are the key points or areas where you do need specific pieces of information. And that will be more relevant to you and personalized. It may not be what Julian's needs is not necessarily what Dennis needs or is undergoing at that point in time. Yes.
Okay. You've said you're very passionate about customer experience. As you'd imagine, in a public-facing position like I am, I get inundated with horror stories about claim settlement every single day. What is your process of claim settlement, and what confidence can you give the public around how Britam goes about this?
And I do acknowledge there are horror stories in real life around insurance claim settlement. But as Britam and also the industry, you're working towards reviewing that. So one of the key things I would say you start off is looking at the products. I talked earlier about making sure that we do simplify and make them relevant to specific customer segments, so that we are very clear about what risk we are covering. Okay, that's quite important, and it's quite critical to especially the principles that the IRA follows of treating customers fairly. So that's a key regulatory requirement that we must comply with, but also it's part of our practices as a business. Now after that is making sure that we do have clear processes of where we're able to know when you onboard you as a client or sign you up, you are very clear about what exactly like assets are you insuring and items like that, isn't it? Yeah, and what the value of those items are, so that you're very clear from the beginning about what we are covering. That way, that makes the downstream process of claims processing and payment very easily, because I know Julian's came here, he told me he had this car, it was worth this amount, so when they had the accident, yes, we are obligated to pay this amount, and we do that promptly. Yes.
Okay. So, in terms of innovation, what are some of the trends you're seeing shaping, especially the life insurance space, and how can players like yourselves and even competitors remain agile in that rapidly evolving environment?
So one of the key innovations that we're looking at, I would say, is, and we've begun, for us in the life business, is trust management services. So especially financial planning after you are gone.
Yeah.
That's one of the key things. You've seen many well-off families will leave behind resources, and the children fight almost to the death for these resources. So now that financial planning after that, before the life insurance would pay off, and maybe most families, everything is fine and things go on very well, but in other instances you'll also have fights happening around the resources that have been left behind. So that planning through our trust business is what we're looking forward into, making sure that we're able to now live through our motto with you every step of the way, and make sure that if you have life insurance proceeds, then we can manage them, pay school fees for your child, the upkeep and everything until they finish school, and until the age you tell us that they can have their money. If you say it is 25, we'll give them the 25, their money, the balance, and they can go and live their life as they would wish.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. As we dial down our conversation, Dennis, we are in a policy environment which has shifts every so often. Last year, thankfully, we didn't see this coming into materiality. We had the conversation around should we be having value-added tax on insurance services, and it kicked up a storm in this country around what exactly this would mean, even from a penetration standpoint. As we look forward, especially because now we're getting into the budget cycle, what are some of the desirable approaches you would aspire to as a key player in this industry, especially around insurance?
Okay. Thank you for that question. So maybe on the first one, in terms of VAT and insurance services, I would say that would not be a good idea around introducing value-added tax on insurance services, because insurance companies and banks are part of what we call the financial intermediary.
Yeah.
We support the real economy in making sure they do their real business when they produce the real goods and services for the economy. So that would introduce an unnecessary cost to the end client. And of course, there are certain complicated areas like life insurance where the premiums we collect are not necessarily revenue for the organization. This is money we collect on behalf of you, and we invest on your behalf, and if there's any risk, we pay out the life cover, or at maturity, we do pay out your lump sum, which is usually more money than you put in. So it is mostly an investment. Okay, so that would be complicated. So it wouldn't be appropriate to introduce value-added tax at that point. Now, in terms of other fiscal policies that the government may want to introduce, I would say I think the best approach is they can give the proposals, but what we just request is that we are listened to as the experts within the industry through our association and our regulator, and be able to now provide the relevant input for those various recommendations, and then we can be able to partner the way forward, because the objective is to grow the economy and make sure that all of us as Kenyans are prosperous, and also there are risks that are covered as well. We do not want people to say insurance is too expensive, let me not have it. Now that will drag the economy backwards in the long run, because no one has protection to focus on growing the real economy.
Okay.
Yes.
We're out of time. Dennis, let me allow you to give us your parting shot and just speak to the audience about what Britam offers and why you think it should be the partner of choice.
All right. Thank you. So Britam is a diversified financial services company, a group. We do have operations all the way from South Sudan all the way to Mozambique. So we're able to provide you with financial service solutions across the region. Here in Kenya in particular, we do offer life insurance that I've spoken about. We do offer what we call general insurance. That means we insure any type of asset that you may have. So motor vehicle, your house, buildings, or even any business risks that you may have as well. All right. We do have other products as well as investments from our asset management arm. And also we do have trust services for if you want to plan now for life after death. So that's one of the key areas I would say that Britam does well in terms of financial services, and also we do partner with banks like HF, who are a key partner of ours as well. So we do cover the broad spectrum of financial services. So I think the key parting shot is Britam is a trusted partner, and they will work with you every step of the way, and our main purpose here is just largely to safeguard dreams and aspirations to the future. So whatever dreams and aspirations that you do may have, we are here to work with you and support you in that vision.
Dennis Moria, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Julians.
We have been having a conversation with the General Manager in charge of BD at Britam, that is Dennis Moria, and speaking about insurance in general and then drilling into life insurance and why this is critical for you and I to consider, especially as we navigate the complexities and uncertainties that life brings its way. We shall continue highlighting these issues for the interest of the public, so stay tuned to Business Redefined.